to the public protector, because over 200 million rands of 400 million rands for toilets for the Zululand district has disappeared under your watch. 126 million rands has been used willy-nilly, footsie under the table in Zululand. The list is endless. Don't write the crest of credibility on this one, because you are totally compromised. Totally compromised. And this cancer, it's funny, when you are in the IFP, that's one. But let us answer the question in general. When we are proposing the IFP corruption court, which is going to deal with all matters related to corruption, particularly the investigations which will come through the SIU, the commercial court, the public protector, and the auditor general, in order to fast track the issue of dealing with these corrupt individuals who are stealing people's money. What it is, it's actually broad night theft. Second, you are saying people must be employed on the basis of their qualification and competence. That the issue of cadre deployment continues to be a problem in South Africa, because at times it overlooks competence and qualification, and then that opens the door to corruption. And the fact that people are just not ignoring, your public financial management act to NFMA and whatever regulations of treasury that are there has done that. But the other issue is political will to actually deal with the issues of corruption. And I think that is a challenge which all political parties must take up. Have the political will to deal, even if it's your favorite comrade. But once they engage in acts of corruption, they must walk the plank. We should not be covering people for the basis of because they are comrades. Because what that does is that it's not the people at the top that suffer, it's the people on the ground that suffer. My final challenge would be to say, in order for us to take the ANC seriously on the issue of corruption, with all due respect to the ANC and the internal due processes, we would really love a day when the spy tapes would materialize, and when the 750 plus charges against President Zuma, that he would actually go to court and clear himself in court. Why do I say this? Because it opens up the door, a chance for criticisms of the institution of the presidency because of the incumbent, and the dark clouds hangs over that office because the incumbent is compromised, simply because he is running away from his day in court. That's what it is. So maybe he will man up at some point or other and actually go to court and clear his name there if he's still the innocence. Because I must buy tapes to our phone.
Thank you very much. Gina, before I get to answer your question, let me say that I've never dreamt in my life being served water by a communist, but thank you very much. Let me say that corruption is a serious problem for our society. It is a serious problem for our society. Let me just tell you that in this province, almost a year and a half ago, 10% of our municipalities were under administration. Now that is an indication that there is a serious level of corruption in municipalities. But also, we would not be doing justice to ourselves. Whether you are wearing an ANC, a DA, IFP, an NFP shirt, if we'll actually sit down and not talk on these issues of corruption because they affect us ultimately. The point is, when you still have a president in the country that is yet to face his day in court on 750 odd charges, then why would other people below him not see the need of being corrupt and actually think they'll go free? But if people claim that they have a good story to tell, I also have a good story to tell about corruption. Other than Jacob Zuma, let us look at the ANC's parliamentary list. I'll just highlight 4 or 5 names.
How many white males in the DA?
As many as you want. But let me say to you, the ANC's list, top on the KwaZulu-Natal national list of the ANC's Peggy Cele.
Yeah.
Peggy Cele was fired as a police commissioner on serious allegations of maladministration and corruption. Now there is Peggy Cele. There is Peggy Cele. But also in the KwaZulu-Natal list, or you can either ask and can after Peggy Cele is Bongistole. Bongistole is a former mayor of this district, Umgungundlovu district. It was under her watch, and she was recalled by the ANC, that this municipality collapsed and it actually was on the state of freeze financially. But today, she's in an electable position to parliament. Let me tell you, Mervyn Dix, the former deputy mayor of the city of Pietermaritzburg, it was under his watch that the city of Pietermaritzburg collapsed and he was recalled by the ANC on allegations of corruption. He is in an electable position to parliament.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about Alpha Shelembe,
Yeah.
the former deputy mayor and mayor of Maritzburg. It was under his watch that this municipality collapsed and he was recalled by the ANC, subsequently elected chairperson of the ANC in the region. Today, he is in a comfortably electable position on their list to parliament. Let me tell you about Mike Mabuya Kulu and Peggy Konyeni. Mike Mabuya Kulu and Peggy Konyeni on serious allegations, in fact, I am the complainant in court. They are yet to face their day in court on allegations of stealing millions and millions of taxpayers' money to fund an ANC campaign. They are in electable positions on the ANC list. Now, can I just check one thing? Shall I tell them about you? But there are two things. Clearly, if you look at these names, those that are corrupt are the ones who benefit more than those of you who are sitting in this room wearing yellow shirts in the ANC.
Yes.
It's a fact. It is a fact that the community of Inkandla, to electrify Inkandla, you need 148 million rand, but 240 million rand spent on one man's house. And the public protector made a judgment.
Never told us his wife was raped.
But you know, I will not tell you much about Ukai. I have a good story to tell about you as well. But here, and he can dispute it. The Honorable Kukushen was saying, if Ukai was spending time at work, probably we would not even be talking about issues of corruption. Now, when you have people like Ukai, who are employed by this government, benefiting through this government, but still take time off their government duties to go and campaign for the ANC, whilst they receive a salary every month through your hard-earned taxes, is that not corruption or stealing from the taxpayer? I told you that I'm going to give you water. Let him come You know when you again have when you have employees of government who are deployed as cadres, ripping off government millions and millions through tenders, the people will always remain poor. So there are two things. One, we need to deal decisively with the issue of cadre deployment and actually to stop completely this thing of public servants doing work, particularly with tenders with government.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, firstly, I want to start by saying, okay.
No, you didn't hear what I said to him?
Maybe first let's because some of these things, there's a subtext into it. You can see that that's the main issue. It's around the president. And you could see that my panelist, that's the critical issue. Everything else just flow from that basis. You see, for the fact that we always see various reports of alleged corruption everywhere in government, is because this government is committed to combat corruption and everywhere it manifests itself. Unlike apartheid time where it was put under carpet as if there was no corruption. You see, in relation to it already, now the SIU has announced that about 15 officials from the Public Works Department are going to be announced to face prosecution in terms of what happened in that project of security upgrade in Uganda, including possibly collusion with the constructor, so that we had that escalation that happened. There's no president who stand in the construction site and look at the papers and sign and ask what is happening here. That's the president. Perhaps even the minister of Tulas can't even be privy to the final details of such project of construction. But wait, after election, we're going to see steps in addressing that issue of even in line with Matozela report, including that ad hoc committee that is going to reconvene after the sitting of the 5th Parliament. Now, you see, you need to discipline some of the audience that you must not be rowdy. Because it insults even the intelligence of the entire audience. But I want to say that, you see, some of the names that my colleague Martin is raising, actually all of them. You see, if we are going to overlook processes of law, it will create a situation where tomorrow, if I don't want Nkolo to be member of parliament, I will go tomorrow and make an allegation. Even unfounded allegation. On the basis of that, I go perhaps to witness or to Sunday Times. On the basis of that allegation, he will be disqualified after this election to go as an MPL. 8 years down the line, or 8 months down the line, it is established that it was just an allegation to take him out. Now, every allegation has to be proven in the court of law. If I'm alleged as corrupt, I must go to court. The court must find me guilty. On the basis of that, I must be removed. I know exactly, because some of these cases we've been closely monitoring them. Whether you speak of the former speaker of legislature, Mike Mabiakuruwe, we were closely in the process of monitoring those processes. How do they go? And we're clear that should they be found in the court of law, what the ANC is going to do, of which those charges were withdrawn. He speaks of other people like your Melvin Dex, your former mayor Umgungundlovu. There's no court of law that found them. It was an issue about the running of municipality and the issues, therefore, that the organization took a decision. You know, in relation to Msunduza, I was part of the committee, actually,
that took a decision on even recalling some of the members of the Msunduzi, so that you had a new leadership that emerged in that Msunduzi municipality. That process was an exhaustive process. It was 2 years ago. And because the ANC had to act so that proper leaders at that time were going to take forward, the municipality had to be installed in that municipality. So I'm saying, therefore, it's not a question of the ANC folding its arms and not acting on what is interpreted or is seen as poor leadership. But you can't, therefore, prosecute politically someone who has never, on the basis of an allegation that is in the media, without the court of law. It's very, very important, and I want to agree with my colleagues in relation to corruption is a pervasive phenomenon in this country. And to deal with it sometimes requires for all of us to transcend our parochial party policy and say, how do we deal with it? Municipalities in the province, as an example, if you read Auditor General's report across party politics, there's a problem in supply chain processes, tampering with treasury regulations, all of those issues. We've got to deal with those issues without necessarily pinning down this or that. That includes, obviously, the Zululand, the march that we had recently, which was led by Comrade Begete. I'm not too sure, with despite it, my colleague is saying, if we can go back and say what Mogele Mshe pronounced himself on despite, I'm sure he may never sustain the document anymore, with respect to the president. Thank you.
While Comrade Kaye was speaking, there was less interruption. What does it say? I said it's your time now to ask questions. This person, let's sit the hands then. I'm going to only take questions. I'm going to ask all at once. My panelists will be writing down your questions because I'm only going to give them time one round to answer your questions. So I'm going to take 10. Come corporate, 1, 2, and I need the number in common. 3, 4, 5. What was the corporate?
And then?
Your question should be one of the many
sizwele bekhuluma nge-NYDA and bekhuluma nge-corruption. Ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi kahle kahle kwenzekani in terms of i-corruption ku-NYDA ne-corruption nje as a whole ukuthi IFP yona ibise ngokulungisa kanjani i-corruption.
Is he okay? No. Please, guys, please, please. Hi.
It's true that about your plan, but let's face it, people with disabilities are not fully accommodated. And what is your plan?
Ngimbuze uqala uzoya ku-federal umkhuleko hlelo youngest member of parliament in South Africa. Yes, comrade Mkhuleko, njengomholi we-IFP we-national we-NECI futhi uphinde ube uhlalo we-youth brigade. So sicela ukubuza ukuthi as-IFP-ke yalida la eKZN isikhathi eside, yikuphi esenike nakwenza ukuzama ukuthuthukisa izinga lemfundo, ugqugquzela imfundo? Ngize ku-comrade we-ANC. Ngicela ukubuza ukuthi if i-ANC i-serious ngokufighta i-corruption, kungani pho kutholakala ukuthi umuntu efike lahle icala le-corruption aza ejele kwesinye isikhathi, kodwa uthola ukuthi njengamanje on top of the list abaya kwi-parliament? Njengobheki Cele
I believe Comrade Kaye, you are familiar with the Goldman Sachs report of the 20-year review about South Africa in terms of its economy, and it said today the economy is 63% bigger than it was in 1993, which means that access to social services, education, and so forth has improved in our country. Going forward now, if the ANC government or the ANC as a party is elected, how are you or how is the African National Congress going to address issues of poverty, unemployment, and inequality? Lastly, we Democratic Alliance, and I'll be very brief on this one, how you as the Democratic Alliance deal with the issue of the perception, because perceptions are very important in politics, deal with this notion that the DA represents the vestiges of white privileges, of the past privileges, in the sense that even now there have been debates that are raging that the DA is against broad-based black economic empowerment, employment equity, and other things that will deal with the transformation of the economy as a whole.
And my first question will be directed to the representative of the ANC. I heard him talking about, I don't mind taking him back 20 years there. I would like to refer you to Mpumalanga province, the Bushbuckridge region. There in Mpumalanga and Bushbuckridge has become a capital city of potholes. I'm talking about the infrastructure. And that infrastructure, when we go back, it was the infrastructure that came with apartheid government. And what is that good story I'm talking about if you, the ANC, came in and did not change anything about that? And my second question, I'm not repeating what the comrade Zibani said, but it's about the list of candidates, and secondly, it's about the members that are beyond the rule of law in South Africa, that can go away with anything. That is my problem. If a member of parliament can be above the rule of law, can the citizens respect the rule of law? Thank you.
I've heard like they talk about corruption. If the other parties happen to rule out the ANC, any party from this one sitting in front of us, what guarantees do they have for us to know that they won't be corrupt as they say the ANC is corrupt? In this whole corruption thing, I hear Zuma's name going on top and not the ANC, which means the problem is Zuma. So now, what else do you have against the ANC apart from
It's unfortunate because I want to ask any question on the side of NFP, because whatever they said about him, he inherited from the next door. The next door, there are people who the ANC, the corrupt, or whatnot. But what I can report is, I think they are part of the KwaZulu-Natal. Azange kuze kube ne-infrastructural development njengoba kade usho ukuthi kunama-pothole nalapha kunomgaqo ohlabathi separlament. Wakhuluma ngama-strikes nangokukhonapha kwezinto, but awukwazi ukukhuluma ngalama-black on black violence between NFP and IFP nama-hostela laba abahlala kwena khona. But understanding the basis or the basic roots of corruption is not what the government does, it's what is rooted from the bottom. So what I'm saying is, our guys was in the name of Tony Leon, which benefited out of 93 billion that brought South Africa into crisis pre-1993. What happened to that 93 billion that WPA transferred to the company? The very important question people need to understand is, did the ANC promise anything to people, or the ANC committed itself through the Freedom Charter? That's the question.
Corruption does not only occur in the public sector, but it also occurs in the private sector. So what will you guys do to fight corruption in the private sector? Yeah, man. And my question to ETA is that, what is your opinion in terms of brokers, like where do you guys stand? Yeah, man.
IFP
My question is IFP, and NFP. Considering the fact that South Africa has the most progressive constitution in the world because of policies implemented by the ruling party. The market policies anything is implemented because there is much issue NFP employment, youth ministries, and then ANC talk about loans. Isn't that an extension? Isn't that an extension of our policies that were there?
As we are we must look back on Nelson Mandela's speech in the South Congress. The ANC government does what the government did to you. You must do unto them what we did to them. When it comes to our leaders, season 2 is the proposal of creating about 6 million jobs. Yes. But the problem is the province board and dismissed the DA proposal is in fact. The DA proposal was miscalculated. Okay, coming to ANC, as much as it has done a lot in the past, but the only thing that will be high progress the type of revenue that the ANC has got throughout the 20 years. Throughout the year, how much money was left unaccounted for? Yes. Okay.
The ANC is doing. The ANC is always exemplar, as you can read my theory. That was indeed introduced by the African National Congress. But nonetheless, before I pass my lips, I think we should appreciate one thing that the ANC have been able to do, to open an access for us to the institutions of parliament. So, never mind. This is this says as you base about Natal. Esaba khona ulimi lakhe ngenxa kakhongolosi wavula amathumbu. Ubhuti we-NFP ukhulume ngendaba yokuthi awukwazi ukuthi usalambile ukuthi ukhululekile. Mhlawumbe nje even a dictionary terminology. Can we get an explanation between freedom and hunger? On DA, leave alone the question of race in DA. But I want to check, as far as allegations, I will say allegations for now, they are stating that DA spent more than 10 billion on consultants in their government in Western Cape. So can we get answers on that allegation? But also an allegation which is true because we saw the list. There are only less than 30% black faces in the list of the DA in Parliament. But when it comes to the ANC, Comrade Kaye, can you please tell us one thing? Can you please tell us one thing? So that none of us is Mandala, but they pass up which I want to.
Ufunda nenkanzo 93 madala.
Njengoba sibona ukuthi apparently
uphume ejele wena.
Siyathola ukuthi statistically China is a leading country in the world, both in terms of economy and relative in terms of reports. It's fine. Because of
let's go.
their plans.
Shut up.
And abafowethu be-IFP laba esibadala bona bazobuya basebengezile bazofunda la eNingizimu.
In this institution was uncalled for. This institution has got some RESPO members, which is an alliance of the IFP. And these are the IFP members that were invited to attend it. And we and so nje ukuthi waxoxisa amagama akho owashilo ngoba awamukelekile emphakathini.
With all opinions, I read my views there.
Albeit that it's been submarine, whatever that's supposed to be. I will, on behalf of the IFP, accept whatever that was in terms of the withdrawal, whatever it was, but we'll accept it.
But already we have the schedule. I hope you understand. Since the other corporates have more questions directed to them, don't tell nobody at this 4 minutes, 4 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dina. It's unfortunate that Isaac is answering such statements. It's very unfortunate, and it makes me feel ashamed because I want them to give me the subsidy. And going to the questions, there was a question of violence. As the NFP, we know that we have been one of the parties that have been victim to political violence, and we are totally against political violence. As such, we are part of a multi-party committee which looks into political violence in hotspots, especially Bamashu. We have lost a number of members in that region. So we are totally against political violence. We believe in this day and age that a political engagement should be more thorough and more just than using violence. To the question that was addressed by the last speaker of what is freedom, I'm surprised that at this level he will ask a definition from me. However, let me furnish him with that definition. What we intend to say as the NFP about freedom. Freedom equals access. Access to employment, access to food and security, access to shelter. So hunger falls under those parameters which incarnate freedom. So if one is still do not have access to basic services such as food and shelter, real freedom has not been attained. So as the NFP will continue fighting until we see that the basic needs of our people in South Africa are met. So we'll stand for real freedom, not political freedom that was attained in 1994.
Thank you very much. We have a number of questions. I'll try to be as brief as possible. On the issue of the NYDA corruption, yes, 106 million rand was lost in the first level in 2010. The matters with the public protector, we have lodged a complaint with her. She is investigating the matter and has indicated that she is having difficulty in accessing some information, but we have urged her to use the powers of subpoena to get that information. So we are dealing with those issues at the NYDA level, and we are hopeful that she will be able to conclude the investigation. But we also believe that the NYDA must be scrapped and replaced with the Youth Ministry in order for us to address popular issues of youth development in the country. When it comes to the issues of IFP being a government, I did indicate earlier on that as a government of partnerships in KwaZulu-Natal, but quite a lot of things that are in 6,000 schools that are built, that's infrastructure, hospitals, schools, clinics, roads, the list is endless of the things that are there. In fact, on top of that, when I'm hoping that those that ask the questions will listen. Well, some of them are now howling at the back, not listen to the answers to the questions they asked. So that's a bit of a funny thing as well. So the issue is when pregnant women and mothers in this province were not allowed under the then MSc of Health, Dr. Mkize, we took him to court to compel him to give HIV positive mothers developing to prevent mother-to-child transmission. That's part and parcel of our achievements in this province. When it comes to education, we built colleges of education. Colleges of education, we built them, they were subsequently closed down by the ANC government. So I mean, if you speak about education, we were committed to specialized teachers in that regard. When it comes to the issue, I think it was Samantha who asked this, the issue of corruption, but obviously we must be able to understand that when you speak about President Zuma, he is part of the whole. In fact, the issue of corruption in the ANC is deep-rooted. The entire ANC is corrupt.
Yeah.
He is the beneficiary of the corruptness.
Yes.
So, I said and let me respond to the flowery question on violence in KwaZulu-Natal. Let us not trivialize the issue of political violence. The NFP has lost people, the IFP has lost people, the ANC has lost people. In a Tewin, there has been intra-ANC violence. The issue of Kwamashi is not an issue that any sane-thinking person will be proud of. We must not address issues through violence. The NFP themselves, they know that in Umsing, for a long time, the violence that was taking place there was alleged to have been NFP violence. So we must be able to, once the issue is there, to unpack it. If two people are fighting over a girlfriend at the corner shop there, and then one happens to be a member of a particular party, and they fight and one gets killed, that's not political violence. Why do I say this? A few weeks ago in Etewin in Jacobs, a member of the NFP was killed, but was not killed for political violence. Luckily, the MEC was present that day. They were fighting over a girlfriend. So let us allow the police to investigate and then conclude what was the motive. Then we can say it's political violence. But to put the cart before the horse is what I find to be a problem. So the issue of political violence is an issue we must address, and all of us must be sober enough to say it should not happen. I want to say the IFP has got no intention of killing anybody, but by say if you do useless, how's those sports? Just impunity.
Yes.
I'm sure they will think the same. The DA, the NFP, abantu, they are useful alive, and we must never, ever, ever take for granted the value of life. On the issue of data, that's another question for us. I want to then conclude by saying, Christ is our source.
Yes.
Statements which have got no relevance to
Must be student at the end of the day.
I'm not surprised that within the narrow parameters of your thought, you will transcend to the comments you made. Because Bulamo said the same thing and said people have got dirty votes. So grow up, shape up, or shape up.
The first question, and I think it's a very critical question that I really want to address. It's a question that was raised by UKZN. Kajeni, your question about people with disabilities. I think it is a very serious question for government holistically, because the society that we live in today is a society that has to accept everyone for who they are, and not what they have and what they don't have. And it is very critical and core to us as the Democratic Alliance that we treat every single South African as equal, whether a person lives with a disability or not. Let me tell you, my mother passed away 6 years ago. And when she passed away, she had suffered for 14 and a half years of stroke. She could not walk, and in fact, it was always a worry for me because in some of the government institutions that we had to go to, she begged to go into those areas. And that is why that you will also see that probably if you look at the DA social growth policy, that I was very keen in particularly the aspect of people with disabilities. But it is a concern, it is an issue that has to be addressed, and quite frankly, I would not say that the DA has excelled in it, or any other party, because I think we are all united in this one, that we have to treat every South African with the manner and the respect that they deserve, despite who they are and how their nature of living conditions are. So that's the view we've held, and you will see that we've actually changed around the city of Cape Town and the parliamentary buildings in Cape Town to allow easy access for people living with disabilities. So that will be my response to you. But let me also say, thank you very much for raising that question. It's very key. I want to quickly move. I want to quickly move to the other question. Mageba, in question of perception. Mageba, perceptions will always be perceptions. I am not black. I do not wish to be black. I am leader of the DA in this province, elected through a democratic process. And I am the leader of the DA Parliament, and I don't wish to be black. There are quite a number of, in fact, the highest number of the DA's membership, the highest number of DA's membership consists of blacks and Indians. So it is a perception that the DA remains a white party. We are not a white party, we are the most diverse political party ever to be seen in Africa as it is currently. So it is a perception, people are attached to their perceptions, and quite frankly, I don't think we need to waste any time going out and saying to people, we are not a party for whites, but we are also not a party for Indians, we are not a party for blacks or colored to encourage for all South Africans. That's who we are, that's how we define ourselves. But thank you very much for the question. I don't know where you get this view of us opposed to affirmative action or BEE. We are very unequivocal in this. We are very clear, we are very explicit. We support the affirmative action. We support BEE, and that's our view. And you go and interrogate our policies, we are very clear on that. It is just political propaganda. That's the propaganda. Let me also say, I'm sorry I didn't get your name. I think it was Samantha who asked if it's all about Jacob Zuma or the I would presume, or I would want to presume that probably Samantha was very selective in what she's heard from all of us here. Because I think largely this debate has been very less about Jacob Zuma. It has been about what we have to offer and what our interventions are on the questions that the moderator of the program has put. But yes, if you want to hear it, Jacob Zuma is the head of an organization that is perceived currently to be anchor-text of corruption in this country. It's a fact. So he's one. Our view on labor brokers, we perceive labor brokers as a business. The only problem we have is when people are actually manipulated in a process of actually getting employment. Because we believe that whilst they exist or they do not exist, whether they exist or do not exist, we should not have any system that will pose a hindrance of any sort to people getting employment that they rightfully are deserving of. So that's our view on it. I don't know if you still want, if you would want me to respond to the question by the EFF. I saw he has left. But let me not respond to the question.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, there was lack of content in the question. I really tried to understand what the issue was about the 93 billion rand FW declared transferred to the Democratic Alliance or to Tommy Leon. That's a very incorrect statement. I joined the Democratic Party from this institution, from here, in this institution in 1996. And we don't have any record of any money transferred to us by FW declared. In fact, he's one of the people who've never lied to us. But the Democratic Alliance, let me tell you, we've never had any association with FW declared or the government of the country before 1994. So we would have not received any money. We've never had any relationship. We've always been an opposition as a Democratic Party, which culminated or gave birth to the Democratic Alliance. So we are not aware of the money that was transferred to us from FW declared. 10 billion rands worth of contractors or of consultants used in the government of the Western Cape. You'd recall that we have actually called for an interrogation of that figure and asked where that figure comes from. But if you are interested in the Western Cape having used 10 billion rand on consultants, go and ask how much has an ANC in municipalities here has used in consultants. Because I tell you now, they've used consultants probably at a rate 10 times what this rate. In this, I've been a councillor in this city for 10 years. I think that's all that was referred to. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Amanda! Amanda!
Thank you very much. Of course, there's a number of questions that have been raised. I just want to run quickly because the time limited. Obviously, I'm not good. Makeba, I agree with you. Goldman Sachs report confirmed that over the period of 20 years, the economy of this country has grown over 63% in terms of its GDP base, and it has been accumulating since at least from 1996 uninterruptedly. Of course, somewhere around 2008, because of the economic meltdown, we took a knock, but we are on a recovery phase in terms of the upswing. And those are things that report, if you put it in context, it appreciates the fact that over 2 decades, we've managed to fast track what ordinarily could have never been achieved in a period where Thank you very much. So that is a reflection contained in that report. The second question, I think my comrade that side did not do his research correctly about people found in the court of law who might be on the list today. There's absolutely, Tony Hagen is not in the list, and Begitele, in fact, they did not go to court. Begitele was not processed. It's Tulima Tazela report, of which there was a special commission chaired by the judge, and the president acted on the basis of that recommendation. There was no court process. So it was a question of the initiation of the investigation arising out of the OPP report. So by law, in terms of the law that qualifies anyone to be a member of parliament, there's nothing that prevents him. Hence, even there was that day of objections to those names who might be in the list. The only name that we managed through the Integrity Committee, the ANC, was the name of Diana Pudi. And that name had to be taken out, of course, in the manner that it appeared. So, but with the rest of all other names, there's nothing that prevents them by law, because there was no court process, judgment to that effect. I want to emphasize this point because I could have asked the moderator to raise it with my colleague in the IFP. He was saying the ANC generally is corrupt. That was the sentiment that he was saying, which is not true, and it has to be corrected. As I'm citing the name of Diana Puli now, I can't say on the basis of her, it translates to the entire ANC being corrupt. Tomorrow maybe Albert Mnamo might be in the Ilanga, as alleged to do 1, 2, 3, or Mangosuti Telis. I can't say the IFP is corrupt. That aggregation constitutes a misreading that must be corrected, because otherwise we'll hype on this as some opinion makers do in the media and want to drive this portrayal of the movement as besieged by God, which is completely lie. And we want to make that correct. In fact, if I said the ANC government is corrupt, I could have said the same thing with Zulu government. He was claiming about colleges that were built at that time. And there's a number of things, even at that time, in terms of corruption. Some of us who grew up in Zululand, on that side of Tugela. We know exactly what was happening in those times. We learned that side.
What was happening?
Unfortunately, there hasn't been any commission to investigate all Bantustan government in terms of we had to integrate them in 1994 with everything flowed system as they were to pick one government at that time. But I want to say that with respect to labor brokers, we had to intervene. We have limited, of course, their engagement that are ongoing also in the network. Now, at least for 6 months, if we are employed in checkers by labor broker, once that labor broker for 6 months continues to pay a payroll, it means that you must cease to be a member of the labor broker. Checkers must pay you directly, not a third man. But the engagement that even that 6 months is not enough, which is raised by consulting. We think that it's an important engagement. And surely it's a discussion we'll agree that post-election we have to deal with it. We've just passed a law now through DTI. Everyone who's under credit bureaus and so on must get amnesty so that they get a new life, a piece of life. Those are good stories to tell by the ANC. And it can't be a government that is not a government of the people that cannot think correctly that the most burdensome people by credit are black people. working class in particular, not the whites. Whites they can afford, in fact they are the one who are the employers in this country. But the ANC government knows that the heavy burden, the economic challenges are heavily endured by the blacks working class in particular. That's why in your NFSAS, when some of the things, it can now take you to the credit bureau, the intervention behind the patient. That if you don't get employment, you don't have to be registered under credit bureaus, because the government of the people. Thank you. Thank you.
ukuthi ngikhuluma ngobuningi benu ngishaye konke benikwenza ukuthi nibe yingxenye yale debate ebeqhubeka lapha. Sibona ukuthi kuhambe kahle kakhulu ngaphandle kwama-glitches lapha nalapha. Kodwa siyabonga nawe nonke emthini nisuke ezindaweni ezikude ekumele nithole isimemo noma nizwe emsakazweni. Sibonge kakhulu kuma-panelists ethu. Njengamanje banemhlangano nama-party agents abo noma nalabo bantu laba bazobe bamele bebabhekela, kodwa bahloniphile uma sibameme ukuthi bezoba kanye nathi. Nasiyabonga kakhulu Macengwana nakwena khaye nawe mashasho osuke ePortshepstone njalo bekunomhlangano khona nawe sifiso ukuthi ukuthi usuke eThekwini. All of them, he was from Cape Town. All of them had engagements, but they made sure they get. That's why I'm going to give them now 30 seconds to make their closing statements, and then we'll ask you either YZ or who's one of to make closing statement on behalf of you guys, because they are the leaders here on these institutions.
All I can say from the African National Congress, tomorrow in Tagebegolo, every one of you, let's go and vote. We want that ink on your fingernail tomorrow. Singachi amaqueues as of Pelama 9, let's go, first one in the queue tomorrow. Let's make our mark and vote for the ANC.
Thank you very much, Tina. We say to the people of Pietermaritzburg, people of KwaZulu-Natal, people of South Africa, they have a wonderful opportunity tomorrow to make their mark and actually stand firm against corruption. There's an opportunity for them to bid farewell to Jacob Zuma and corrupt leaders, both the Democratic Alliance, Together for Change and Together for Hope.
On the IFP, I'd like to thank you for inviting us, and we thank everybody that is present in the engagements that you have had. It's been a privilege for us to be here, and kubaluleke kakhulu ukuthi abaseNingizimu Afrika bazabalazalela namabhunu ukuze baphuthe ilungelo lokuvota ukuze bazikhethele uhulumeni ngokwentando yabo nangokwey'fiso zabo. Ngakho-ke asingayilaleleni imikhankaso eqhutshwayo namubantu asingayivota, asiphume ngangozulu emakheni kusasa siyovota izothi zizwakale ukuze siqinisekise ukuthi siyingxenye wakho weNingizimu Afrika. Kodwa nje kakhulu kusezandleni kusasa.
Thank you very much, Nina. Sibonge kakhulu bonke abazile bazosingasa namhlanje kule debate yethu sithi si-NFP abantu abaphume ngobuningi babo to secure your future, make an educated vote, make an informed vote, and go out and vote for NFP. Thanks very much for your time. And sibonga kakhulu ukuthi namukele isicelo sethu. Noma sazi ukuthi bekufanele ngabe sibize kudala lento ungabisekuba kusasa. But sonke masiphume siye ngothi lwethu sabe siyovota. Okunye okubalulekile abantu ade bekubuza, uvota noma ikuphi. Noma kuthiwa waregister eGoli, uvota noma ikuphi voting station. Ukusho ufike ne-ID yakho, bazofike bakuvotisa ngoba it's national and provincial government. Thanks.
We profit.
If you're outside your province, you will only get the national ballot.
Yes, not the provincial.
neza nani especially siyazi sonke zelo uzofunda kodwa nakwazi ukuthi nifike simbize on such a short notice bafethu. Siyabonga lokho, siyacela ukuthi kusasa ivoti lakho liyimfihlo yakho. Siyabonga.